Luna Sanders stepped into the grand private art auction venue, the sound of her scuffed flats barely audible against the polished marble floor. Her dress, a simple piece from a thrift store, hung loosely on her frame, contrasting sharply with the extravagant sculptures and towering glass installations around her. The air was charged with an undercurrent of wealth, of delicate, floral perfume mixed with the earthy aroma of fine wood and fresh varnish. She paused, taking a deep, steadying breath. The exhaustion of her long journey clung to her like her oversized bag, but she resolved to move through the spacious hall with as much poise as she could muster. Her eyes absorbed the splendor, the soft buzz of whispered conversations floated over the ambient classical music. The glances came first, fleeting yet piercing. Wealthy patrons adorned in designer gowns and polished suits turned to assess her, skepticism etched across their perfectly made-up faces. There were murmurs and smirks, a ripple of judgment that followed Luna as she moved discreetly between clusters of people. Among those assessing her was a man whose demeanor was as hard as the sharp lines of his tailored suit. The dealer, organizer of this opulent spectacle, scrutinized Luna with a cool detachment that bordered on contempt. His gaze lingered on her worn shoes and tired eyes before settling into a frown of disapproval. Nearby, a pair of guests exchanged bemused glances, one of them commenting loudly enough to cause ripples of laughter, "Must be lost," or "the new help." The barb sliced through the air, drawing more eyes to Luna as she stood there, nerves frayed but holding steady, swallowing the indignity along with her anxieties. She straightened her posture, ready to face whatever came next. Luna adjusted the strap of her worn bag and forced herself to take a step forward. Blending into the shimmering sea of opulence was impossible, and she knew it. Just as she was trying to make herself as inconspicuous as possible, the man in the crisp suit, the art dealer, glided towards her, a look of professional courtesy obscuring the suspicion she had seen earlier. "Excuse me," he said with a silky, almost oily voice, "can I help you? Are you lost?" Under the weight of his gaze and the amused eyes of the audience surrounding them, Luna squared her shoulders. Her voice, though dipped in fatigue, was calm and steady. "No, I'm here for the auction. To appreciate the art." The statement hung in the air, apparently incredulous to the dealer whose lips curled into an insincere smile. He looked her up and down, this time allowing his disapproval to show. "Of course, you are," he replied with a hint of mockery. "But you see, this is a private event. A matter of exclusivity, you understand." His words, though coded in politeness, struck her like a slap in the face. Laughs and murmurs started to build around them, the crowd treating this as an unexpected highlight of the evening. Luna felt all eyes fixed on her, dissecting her appearance, her purpose, her very right to exist in the space they deemed sacred. "Well, maybe it's best if you wait somewhere less," he gestured vaguely towards her, contradictory to our guest's expectations. "We wouldn't want to disrupt the ambience." The insinuation was blatant. Luna stood as if carved from stone, her confidence reducing to a fragile shell beneath the dealer's disdain and the crowd's ridicule. Comments flew around her like disgruntled bees, capturing her inadequacy and anger into dizzying snapshots being recorded and shared. "You can't be serious," a voice, younger, sharp with derision, barked from somewhere in the crowd. "Is this some weird publicity stunt?" Luna felt herself shaking, not physically, but deep under the skin, and she tried to unclench her fingers from the crumpled event pamphlet. It was impossible to remain unaffected by the crescendo of mocking laughter and the hum of smartphones capturing the spectacle for entertainment. "Please follow me." The dealer's instruction came from between teeth clenched in a polite smile. Two security staff appeared, appearing politely unyielding, sparking a fresh wave of titters. She was frozen, humiliation a palpable wall surrounding her. The eyes watching her were myriad magnifying glasses, inspecting her worthiness, her every flaw illuminated. A helplessness so profound seized Luna, and she let herself be guided toward the rear of the room. As Luna was escorted, the cruel silence expanded around her, a void she could not fill, an echo chamber amplifying her invisible tears. By now, Even those who might have looked away out of discomfort were drawn back by the sheer magnetism of her public undoing. Time warped as unpleasant minutes ticked away. Luna found a chair in a quiet corridor, devoid of footfalls and whispers, and dropped into it heavily. Her composure now broken, frustrations buzzed under her skin like fireflies she couldn't swat away. She was hoping to gather her dignity, piece by tiny piece, amidst the shadowed recesses of the hall. Yet, lamenting her mistake of coming here, Luna inhaled sharply, trying to calm the turmoil within. She was startled when a smartly attired assistant approached, interrupting the whirlpool of her thoughts. The assistant held an envelope addressed to Luna, and her presence was nothing short of bewildering. "I was asked to deliver this to you directly, Miss Sanders," she said, with a touch of reverence as she handed over the envelope, carefully sealed and distinctly out of place in Luna's chaotic afternoon. Word that something was afoot spread quickly, carried by a series of increasingly urgent whispers. The event coordinator arrived, her demeanor shifting rapidly from indifference to alert interest. A security concierge, previously unseen, moved quickly, speaking into a headset as they paused to ensure that Luna was unmistakably their focus. "Miss Sanders, a moment," the coordinator said, her tone rushed, head tilting towards the crowd beyond. "There's been a misunderstanding." The sudden flustered attention cast a jarring angle on the evening, drawing hesitant curiosity from the dealers and patrons alike. All eyes smoothly pivoted, unsettled yet intrigued, towards the corridor where Luna was situated. This anomaly, an unexpected deviation from the evening's pre-planned elegance, cast a ripple of tension through the crowd. Uncertainties lingered like a storm cloud, as though inhaling before the downpour. This was not part of the night's agenda. Lines were being crossed, boundaries stretched. It was enough to upset the presumed tranquility the privileged few had crafted for themselves. Yet for Luna, the mixture of anxiety and tentative hope began to unfurl. This was it, the tipping point, the thrust that would steer the evening onto a road no one had anticipated. Understanding was growing in the eyes of the observant as confusion melted into speculative awe. Amidst the flurry of sudden, significant attention, the anticipation of clarity buzzed like a silent siren call through the air, promising that what was to come would be remembered by all. Once left alone, the atmosphere returned to its glossy veneer of elegance and detachment. The art dealer slipped back into his role seamlessly, though the excitement of his recent encounter still hummed through his veins. He took a moment to congratulate himself internally. Maintaining exclusivity was paramount, and he had just demonstrated his commitment to that principle. To him, the evening represented an unyielding sanctuary for the crème de la crème, a space where any breach of its unseen borderlines was unacceptable. Outside the auction room, the assistant's presence alongside Luna signaled a seismic shift within the event's ambience. Where moments before the laughter and mingling had flowed freely, attention now lingered. Guests cautiously resumed their interactions, but the focus had shifted. The attention of those in attendance fractioned uncertainly towards the commotion at the room's edge, curiosity peaking, silently demanding answers. Seated in the hushed corridor, Luna felt the oppressive weight being chipped away by whatever unexpected intervention now unfolded. She brushed away the dewy frustration that had threatened to spill over her lashes, redirecting her energy towards composure. She remained still, determined, even as waves of emotion breached her carefully maintained calm. From down the hall, a clatter of voices indicated a build-up, a break in supposed decorum. Yet Luna steeled herself, forcing her breathing to a measured rhythm. Her mind unraveled the encounter with the envelope, a mystery and a comfort she didn't yet understand. The assistant, seeing Luna's resolve, nodded assuredly before stepping away, leaving Luna to the din of her swirling thoughts. At that moment, the event coordinator returned to the quiet corridor, flanked by the security concierge. Their approach, respectful and purposeful, suggested an imminent revelation about to unfold. With a sense of inevitability, Luna rose to meet them, hands grasping the envelope tighter for balance, both literal and metaphorical. The corridor was a river of sound and momentum carrying her towards a moment she hadn't anticipated when the evening began. Miss Sanders, the coordinator's voice was softer now, imbued with an apology that hadn't yet reached her lips. "We must apologize," she continued, brisk but courteous, "for the earlier misunderstanding." Luna nodded, accepting the gesture silently. Elements of the puzzle were assembling, though few pieces had been laid out before her yet. By now, the onlookers began piecing together fragments they couldn't yet name. The art dealer, obliviously gliding amidst the guests who only moments ago lulled by smug satisfaction, began feeling the tides turn. An undercurrent of palpable energy folded him into its low rumble. Conversations dipped, eyes shifting and noses turning discreetly wherever Luna moved. Back into the elegantly lit room, the crowd parted, subtle but unyielding. Each step Luna took resounded in her ears, and echoed lightly in the gathering murmur of whispers washing against golden china and fine crystal. Onlookers were beginning to realize that the earlier drama was far from over. Most significantly, the shift signaled a surprise for the dealer. She was no longer an intruder in his sanctuary, barely more than a shadow masquerading amongst the elite. Now, it hinted that a necessary recalibration was pending. The guests' engagement refocused on Luna, their glances now questioning and speculative. The dealer himself, sensing something that eluded his tight grip, moved towards the heavily arched doorway back into the main gallery. "Excuse me, everyone," came a bold, clarion call that swirled through the room with authority. "May I have your attention, please? I'd like to introduce you to tonight's esteemed guest and the artist of the evening's headline piece, Luna Sanders." Luna stood framed by luminous spotlights, the precious art pieces bathed in golden hues on the walls, her signature clearly visible below the centerfold masterpiece. Silence held its breath, a held note in some divine composition, then exhaled as the room erupted in reactions. The once skeptical crowd collectively gasped, eyes casting in all directions before refocusing with sudden intensity on Luna. Her presence was transformed, from a perceived interloper to the resounding heart of the auction, her signature boldly breathing life into the very art those privileged eyes had revered yet failed to see the creator behind. The dealer froze, disbelief rippling across his previously certain countenance. His heart plummeted, and the echo of humiliation returned in swings of brass pendulums. Awareness dawned that his superficial judgments had missed the essential, a momentous oversight of grandeur now mapped out before him. He stood amid tangible ripples of rebuke from a public astonished by his ignorance. Around them, phones were hurriedly tucked away, and whispers wove chaotically through those who realized their mockery had been woefully misplaced. The patrons who had once belittled Luna now faltered in their places, some mumbling disjointed apologies, others unable to meet her gaze. Luna maintained a composed elegance, calm as the eye of a roiling storm. She briefly addressed her attire, explaining her travel and minimalist approach, an expression of personal sincerity that befitted her philosophy, that art should evoke raw beauty and truth without embellishment, just as her life did. Her tranquil dignity brought the evening full circle. In a domain that thrived on surfaces, she, the maker of meaning, thrived beneath them. Her measured calm illuminated a stark contrast, underscored by an ambience once swelled with hollow snobbery but now stilled by her profound reality. The depths of her creations extended well beyond the canvases, reshaping an entire sphere unwillingly caught up in their own vanity and its shattering edges. Standing in the brilliant spotlight, Luna Sanders metamorphosed from the once mocked figure into a beacon of admiration. The air in the gallery was thick with surprise, mixed with the subtle undertones of fine liquor and artificial warmth. Her painting, awash in dynamic shades and nuanced depths, now took center stage, commanding the room's full attention, not just for its vivid portrayal but for the creator who stood boldly before it. The astonishment among the guests turned to fervent curiosity, every eye trained on Luna, eager to process the night's unexpected turn. The tension that had earlier marked the confines of the bidding area dissipated, replaced by reverence and a mounting avalanche of realization. The artist of such prestige had walked anonymously among them. Phones, once discreetly lifted to capture her potential downfall, now documented her unexpected triumph. As reactions tore through onlookers both swift and slow, the murmurs knitted into a web of awestruck discourse. Each pair of eyes sought Luna's as guests shuffled into belief, then rallied into the realm of apologetic sincerity. The dealer's eyes, still locked to Luna's, trembled with reluctant acknowledgement. He had underestimated her significance and was now faced with the unenviable task of reconciling bravado with humility. His cheeks flushed with reluctance as he issued out a clumsy, half-audible apology amidst the swirling conversations. A group of art enthusiasts, who had earlier surveyed Luna with harsh judgment, now gravitated towards her. Their eagerness to bridge the newfound gap was almost as palpable as the drink glasses clinking cheerfully among themselves, a testament to shifting alliances in the radiant gallery. "I must apologize, Ms. Sanders, for the oversight," the dealer managed, his voice suddenly shorn of its earlier steely edge. He stepped forward, holding himself with the strained decorum of someone pausing on the knife edge of public restitution. Luna's soft response carried both graciousness and understanding as she gently addressed him, absorbing the delicate air with a smile that brimmed with forgiveness yet brooked no patronizing. "No worries at all," she replied, her voice a silk thread in the tumultuous fabric of words surrounding them. "After all, I believe in letting my art speak." In this luminous space, the range of reactions varied between jubilation and mild disgrace. Those who had recorded her disdain earlier now scrambled either to apologize or simply melt unseen into the crowd that was growing more cohesive in its celebratory embrace of the artist formerly dismissed. What once felt harshly exclusionary evolved into a show of inclusion and admiring respect, sweeping Luna into its embrace. "You are truly remarkable," exclaimed an older gentleman, his words wrapped in sincerity as much as his finely tailored jacket was in vivid sophistication. "And such a revelation. Your work is transcendent." Luna nodded, accepting the compliment with quiet dignity, her gaze resting momentarily on her creation which now unified the evening's fractured elements into a cohesive narrative. Interestingly, as Luna remained a bastion of self-assured poise, many guests hurriedly pivoted discussions surrounding her perceived humility. Speculation as to the circumstances leading to her arrival in such understated fashion became a tidal discourse, probing everything from her personal philosophy to her recent travel misfortunes, ultimately representing interpretations solely on how she portrayed her truth. In the midst of acknowledgments, Luna's thoughts drifted to how she found herself embodying her values, even when the fallacies around her seemed ever present. The art embodied her belief: one's worth was intrinsic, divorced from gaudy trappings or the gilded expectations of those who view existence through a lens tinted with misplaced grandeur. Standing serenely amidst the room, the narrative of Luna Sanders evolved around her, a multifaceted one comprised not merely of paint strokes or gallery placements, but of personal endurance and artistic rejuvenation, performed seamlessly in collaboration with the very crowd that had sought to exclude her. While Luna greeted both new admirers and humbled guests alike, each interaction fostered a gradual unity previously absent. Her grace in handling the abrupt metamorphosis found its place alongside the fractured aspirations of those witnessing her revelation, slowly knitting them together within the evening's changing air. Nevertheless, among moments of shared esteem rested a candid reminder of susceptibility, an environment so quick to cast aspersions and deny entry without seeing beneath surfaces, internalizing judgment as truth. Within these territory boundaries, Luna pivoted, her humble arrival and quelled dignity casting rays of reflection over floors meant for the privileged few. As the auction merged into lingering conversations and acquainted interactions, Luna's success became a definitive feature for the night. Her tale, however, was embraced not merely with her presence or masterpieces, but rather how her demeanor withstood the narrative shifts woven in only recent hours. She individualistically subdued the dominance of privilege's periphery, merging transformation's efficacy into intrinsic values held near. Herein lay the testament of Luna Sanders not only as an artist but as a vital embodiment of grace, resilience, and unwavering conviction. Each interaction brought the night to a close in reflective contemplation on the genuine essence of visibility, humility, and quiet triumph over the loftiest of preconceived elite ideals. That evening, Luna remained, not just a celebrated artist but the quiet architect of transformation itself, paving an unanticipated path of understanding into a domain that had once resisted her presence. As the evening unfolded and Luna's art transformed the venue into a crucible of revelation, the consequences of the night's events began to unfurl rapidly. The auction host, buoyed by the newfound energy, stepped forward with a glint of determination in his eye to address the crowd. Unlike the earlier hushed whispers, his voice carried the gravity of institutional redirection, a force echoing through the Technicolor rooms. Before we proceed further, I must express our sincerest apologies to Ms. Sanders, the host declared, each word deliberately placed, heavy with resolve. This event stands as a tribute not only to compelling art but to the spirit of inherent inclusivity we strive to uphold. His gaze lingered, challenging the dealer who had orchestrated Luna's earlier humiliation. The dealer, discomfort now palpable against the backdrop of shifting allegiances, stood frozen, his own fallibility writ large before onlookers. "I cannot overlook the poor judgment displayed earlier this evening," the host continued, his voice unwavering. "Instances such as these serve as reminders that our community must thrive on openness, not exclusion." The dealer, his earlier arrogance evaporated, encountered the weight of scrutiny magnified by rebound sincerity, a dual countenance that neither his tailored suit nor honed manners could deflect. His inclination toward a grand network of art supporters now reduced, dissolved in the face of a reputation teetering on collapse. In the days that followed, the dealer found himself ensnared in a web of reputational fallout. Word of mouth reverberated mercilessly through the art world, where discussions turned unpleasantly viral, linking his name to undesirable conversations that questioned his role in a realm dictated by taste and tact. His position was rendered untenable, subjected to review and ultimately suspension, as the auction house sought to repair its standing among the artistic community. The dealer's trajectory, once unshakable, now played into the narrative framework of lessons taught by consequence, a testament to the evolution triggered by Luna's presence. Luna, meanwhile, continued to flourish in momentum, carried by the invisible waves of respect she had quietly garnered. In parallel, her work found enthusiastic reception, strengthening her bond with audiences that extended far beyond the walls of auctions and gallery crowds. It was at a further gallery event, understated yet tasteful, where Luna once again crossed paths with the dealer. In a setting bathed with soft lights capturing the sincerity echoed through brushed textures and familiar tones, their eyes met in the diffuse glow of reoriented bearing. He looked smaller, stripped of power yet humbled in new awareness, the past seeping into the present as a taut reminder. With difficulty, he offered an earnest nod, humbled words failing where a restrained gesture sought connection. Luna, embodying something larger than victory or vindication, simply allowed a quiet smile which acknowledged the sincerity behind disparate intentions. Her smile, gentle yet elusive, signaled pathways of forgiveness and wisdom, a bridge over an expanse of earlier conflict. In that moment, no loud declarations were needed. His apology, unspoken, resided within the space itself, a meeting place sealed in mutual understanding and silent gratitude. Later, as the evening deepened into reflection, Luna found herself basking in warm discussions with diverse admirers, each interaction adding further resonance to her presence. Her art, once obscured by the weight of appearances, now freely bridged voices together in connection and shared appreciation. The night came to a close, and Luna, imbued with the quiet triumph of personal victory, stepped confidently beyond the gallery's threshold. She cut through an ambience still alive with whispers of admiration, her steps echoing purposefully against the polished floors beneath. The gallery's light flickered like stars caught in projection, illuminating a space that seemed forever changed, while Luna walked assuredly back into the wider world beyond its elegant confines. Her journey, as she transitioned between worlds, unspooled in the afterglow of wisdom, echoing louder than the silence of prior dismissal. Throughout it all, the crowd, which had borne witness to her transformation from judge to lauded, followed her exit with eyes woven into reverent awe. And thus while the gallery had seemingly reclaimed its night, Luna had reclaimed something deeper, her own powerhouse of authenticity lauded in the subtlety of being seen and heard. The place that once rejected her now stood enriched, forever altered by the mere grace and fortitude of her extended presence. And amid this new landscape, the ebb and flow of conversations bore permanent witness to the depth rarely seen but deeply understood. In those final moments, Luna's walk into the night was not just one of personal completion, but also one heralding an unprecedented shift. The art world had observed her unfold before them, never to forget the innovative presence of an artist who walked in, changed everything, then vanished into the night with authenticity intact and newfound space reinvigorated by her journey. This space, the community, beaten into shape by her resilience, would hold on to the legacy of Luna's understated power forever, a lasting impression of strength behind the apparent simplicity, painted delicately across her life's vibrant canvas.